Hi, this is Statute and Sense. Today, we'll talk about what happens when you're stopped by the police for whatever reason and asked to provide details such as your name, address, or date of birth. Have
So, why were you filming on National
Because
Grid?
it's interesting, isn't it?
Okay, but obviously they asked you to stop.
Yeah.
Why didn't
I'm
you
doing my
read your
drone.
details? Under Section 50 of the Police Reform Act, I'm requiring you to give me your details.
There's plenty of encounters out there caught on video where people don't seem to understand what they're required to provide and when. I'll also add that there's some nuances where different acts require different details. But to carry out their checks, the police will ask for that extra detail that may not be required. So I hope to provide a bit of understanding by the end of this video. Firstly, I'll start off by saying that the best thing you can do in this situation is remain calm and don't start a confrontation. Don't start digging yourself a hole, and certainly don't do or say anything that might become an offense. I'll start with one that comes up a lot: stop and search, not to be confused with stop and account. So this is covered in Code A of PACE, which deals with the powers of stop and search and the requirements to record public encounters. I'll do a separate video about stop and search and what is required from the police side, but for now I'll keep on topic. When the police are interacting with you and about to do a search, they have to tell you, grill you the grounds and legal basis of it, amongst other things. The legal basis will generally be Section 1 of PACE or Section 23 of the Misuse of Drugs Act. They also have to inform you of your right to a copy of the search record. They'll be filling out this form on their job phone probably, and there'll be fields for search subjects details. Now, let me quote verbatim from paragraph 4.3a of Code A in PACE. For the purposes of completing the search record, there is no requirement to record the name, address, and date of birth of the person searched or the person in charge of a vehicle which is searched. The person is under no obligation to provide this information, and they should not be asked to provide it for the purpose of completing the record. Let me remind you that this is applicable to the legal basis as mentioned previously. Next, let's say you're driving and pulled over, and with everything going on, that includes electric scooters. The power for this comes from Section 163 of the Road Traffic Act 1988. Because you were driving, or it can also be where the officer believes you were driving at the time of an accident or committing an offense in relation to the use of a motor vehicle on a road, that officer can require you to produce your driving license and state your date of birth. This comes from Section 164. Failing to produce your license or state your date of birth is an offense, although you do have a defense to it if you produce your license in person at a police station within 7 days of that request. At the time, though, you could be arrested as the officer can't verify your identity to issue a summons. Next, antisocial behavior. So again, I've seen some horrendous videos where officers or PCSOs are using this piece of legislation for something that's totally unrelated to antisocial behavior. I'll take you straight to the legislation, which is Section 50 of the Police Reform Act 2002. So if you've seen people minding their own business and having this mentioned to them, you can see what's going on. If a constable in uniform has reason to believe that a person has engaged or is engaging in antisocial behavior, he may require that person to give his name and address to the constable. Failing to give your name and address or giving false details is an offense. But note that this is tied specifically to antisocial behavior, which is conduct that has caused or is likely to cause harassment, alarm, or distress to any person. Also note that PCSOs are using this despite the wording. This is because each police force can designate the powers their PCSOs have. At the start of the video, I mentioned cases where officers may try to cheekily extract extra information. To carry out the most common checks the police do, they need a name and date of birth. Oddly, this piece of legislation doesn't include a date of birth. But the officers may use your lack of knowledge to ask for it anyway, so they can run you through all their systems properly. Another not so well-known one is the Confiscation of Alcohol, Young Persons Act 1997, which allows a constable to seize alcohol from those he believes to be under the age of 18 or someone who may be supplying it to under 18s. When doing so, that person is required to state their name and address. But realistically, there's probably been some antisocial behavior taking place that would cover that. So here's a brief recap of the main ones used. Obviously, there are more niche ones such as the Firearms or Terrorism Acts, but the ones you'll hear about are here. To summarize, if you find yourself being stopped by the police, remain calm so you can properly listen to what's being said, including the grounds or any powers mentioned. If you're not sure, ask. That's it for this video. If you have any questions, leave a comment, and if you find this useful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.